Good afternoon. Welcome to Newcastle Borough Council's Cabinet meeting. I'd like to welcome officers and members in the room. Also, anybody viewing this on our feed, also be available on YouTube later. And also welcome to one of our councillors who's sitting in the public gallery as well. I'll introduce our Cabinet members first and foremost. We've got Councillor David Hutchins, Portfolio Holder for Sustainable Environment. We've got Councillor Andy Fear, Portfolio Holder for Strategic Planning. We've got Councillor Craig Scalding, Portfolio for Leisure, Culture and Heritage. Councillor Jill Heatham, Portfolio Holder for Community Safety and Wellbeing. Sitting next to me is Deputy Leader Stephen Sweeney, who's Portfolio Holder for Finance, Town Centre and Growth. And I'm Council Leader Simon Tagg. We'll move to our agenda. First item is apologies. Everybody's here from Cabinet. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Do we have any for items on the agenda? Not seeing any. Item 3 is minutes of the previous meeting as attached in the agenda from the 18th of March. Can we agree those as correct record? Agreed. Thank you. That brings us to our first item of business today, which is Wally's Quarry odour issues. And as I say, every time we introduce this item, this has been the standard starting item on the Cabinet's agenda now for many years. I think that's not an underestimation either. And as always, there's obviously some information to update the public on today, and I'll hand over to our Chief Executive, Gordon, to do the introduction. Over to you, Gordon.
Thank you, Leader. The report for May covers a number of areas which I'll summarise for you here. So firstly, in terms of the Environment Agency, as the report notes, the EA are using their discretionary powers to arrange for work to be carried out on site to remove any risk of serious pollution. The EA has been publishing regular updates on their latest news webpage, and in this report, section 2.17 outlines the work being undertaken. The most recent update was on the 23rd of April, and informed the community that clay is being brought onto site as part of the capping works in the void area to the west of the site. The EA has highlighted that as the current excavation continues, there does remain a risk of slight increase in odour levels while that work continues. As the report also notes, there will be vehicle movements which obviously support those works being carried out. And the EA will provide regular updates as they go through that process. Section 2 covers the odour complaints and monitoring. Pleased to report that odour complaints decreased in March to 41 complaints and in April to 24 complaints received by the Borough Council. There were no odour events in March or April where over 10 complaints have been received in a day. And to set that in context, this is a significant reduction from the 1,620 complaints we received in January. We've not seen complaints at this lower level since 2020, and we will continue, obviously, to monitor and do continue to encourage members of the public to report any odours. That is useful information and will be followed up. Likewise, with air quality data, the percentage exceedance of the World Health Organization annoyance levels. We'll need to pause there, I think.
Okay, sorry for that interlude there. We had a fire alarm. Now we're back in, and I'll hand back over to the Chief Executive, Gordon Long.
Thank you, leader. In respect of air quality, the percentage of exceedance of the World Health Organization annoyance level is reported in section 2.7 of the report. This shows that the levels of hydrogen sulfide have been at zero exceedance across all 3 monitoring stations since the week beginning 24th of March. So zero exceedance for 5 consecutive weeks. This obviously continues to be monitored. There was a virtual public meeting held by the Environment Agency on the 20th of March of this year. A transcript has been shared on the EA Engagement HQ site, and the EA can address any questions arising from that. In respect of the Borough Council's work, we continue to support both the EA, our broader partnership, and the liquidators of the company for anything within our powers to keep the landfill under control as it is currently. And officers are pleased with current progress and obviously the drop in complaints. We will continue to monitor the data in relation to the landfill and continue to undertake our own odour monitoring and assessments within the community. As the report notes, in respect of legal action, upon the liquidation of Wally's Quarry Limited, the abatement notice and the legal requirements in respect of odours ceased to be enforceable. As a result of that, unfortunately, the legal proceedings cannot continue, and that follows firm legal advice to the council on that basis. Although we're not the main regulator of the site, we obviously wish to do all that we could and will continue to do so to help residents within our powers. Happy to take any questions at that point. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. I think obviously the situation is an improving situation. Obviously been out and about speaking to a lot of people on the edge of the quarry area, and in many years past they're the ones who've borne the brunt of the odours, and it is an improved situation, I think, since the closure, since last November, and I think definitely going in the right direction. I think the Environment Agency now being in charge of the site more or less is having the effect. And I think the work that is being carried out is being carried out properly, so there are no gases escaping due to the works, it would seem, neither, which is all a good picture. I think inevitably we've, as Gordon has talked about, our obviously legal action against the company ends because the company is no longer in existence, and we cannot proceed now, and it has gone into liquidation. And that has been explained by the Chief Executive. I'd like to thank the Council's teams, legal teams and officers who've worked on that legal action throughout the period. It has been a fruitful exercise in the end, because it has, I believe, raised the profile of this problem, which ultimately led to the Environment Agency issuing the closure notice, which then, of course, led to the company leaving the site, and for it now to be closed, and also in a better situation for residents working around it. I think in the longer term now we need to ensure that that work of capping and restoration continues, and that is funded by, I believe it will be by the government, and we must ask them to do that and finish this job and end this problem that has been inflicting our residents for a number of years, so that people can get back to their day-to-day lives without having to worry about the odours. We're approaching the summer period now. We've had some nice weather in the last week, and I know people have enjoyed being out in their gardens, not having to smell the horrible toxic stink from the landfill. So things are improving. We're going in the right direction, and this site needs to be permanently capped off and permanently restored so that this can end. Open it up now to comments from Cabinet members. Andy?
Yeah, thanks very much. I think, again, the data that we see is to be welcomed. Things do look like they're going in the right direction. Let's hope this isn't a false dawn. I think what the leader's just said is also dead right. That that what comes next is the long haul. It's perhaps not as headline grabbing as where we've been in the past. And I think what we've got to do is make sure that the job is finished and we go right to the very end of this process. It is great, though, that people have been able to enjoy their holiday recently without this awful nauseous smell spoiling things. But let's keep it that way, and let's make sure that everyone who's responsible for doing that is held to account and that this thing is finally put to bed.
Thank you, Andy. Any more comments? Steve?
Without repeating everything that Andy's just said, of which I agree with every word he said, just a point of interest to people, my allotment is the other side of the road from the quarry, and myself and Councillor Heatham share allotments, and we've noticed recently that the smell has largely reduced, and long may it continue. But apart from that, everything else that Andy says, I support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So got recommendation before us that we note the contents of the update report. We do that, and we note obviously the statement by the Chief Executive that the legal action now ends because of obviously there is no company to take legal action against. But of course, we do know that the Environment Agency, I believe, are still carrying out criminal inquiries into individual named within the company. We've yet to hear back from that, so that route is still open for people to be those in charge of Wallis Quarry Limited to be able to account at a later date if they are seen to have broken the law. So we'll move on to our next item, which is item 2, which is the Football Foundation Home Advantage Programme. Hand over to Craig for this one.
Thank you, Leader. We've had some exciting news on this actually today since the report's been published. But this report, we'd like to recommend that Cabinet authorises the Deputy Chief Executive and myself to develop a detailed grant in this application from the Football Foundation Home Advantage Programme. The exciting news that we've had, and it was just arrived in an email today, is that I'm delighted to confirm that Newcastle Town Football Club at the Whammy and Kidsgrove Lads and Dads at Birchhamwood have been accepted for phase 2 of this project. And on top of that, Chesterton Football Club at Red Street, they're going to be developed into this project in phase 3, which will happen sometime next year. Phase 2 begins within May, and it's been put back a little bit, and we've only been delayed in receiving this news that we've been accepted because there's been over 90 expressions of interest on this, and we've been successful in 3 of those. So I think this is well done, and it's an exciting project to be involved in.
Excellent, thank you, Craig. Yeah, echo your comments there. I think great. Those are involved in sports such as football, and young people particularly getting involved, and obviously health, fitness, and etc. comes on the back of staying active, and this is a great way to do that. Great that those 3 sites have been confirmed as going forward in the Football Foundation, and expect good things to come out of this for those 3 sites, particularly obviously the Whammy, where we've obviously building the changing rooms, and the car park's been upgraded and made secure, and also at Birchhamwood as well, with the lads and dads over there that have been established for many years and will get the benefit of this programme. I'll open it up to any comments or questions. Steve?
I can just talk about the Newcastle Town angle, because it's a club I know quite well. They do a tremendous job in the community. The Row Lane facility they've got there is of football league standard. I think it's such a good facility, and I'm sure that with them running this thing at the Whammy, it'll be equally good. And I think their work in the community, the teams they have, they do an absolutely tremendous job. And then anything to encourage them, I think, is worth encouraging. Thank you.
Thank you. So recommendations before us, and Craig touched on them. Obviously authorising the portfolio holder and our Deputy Chief Exec to develop the detailed grant applications. And there's others that flow from that. All agreed? Agreed. Thank you. That brings us to our next item then, which is Fields in Trust. And David's going to introduce this one.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. The Fields in Trust report is to provide Cabinet with an outline of the Fields in Trust status that is available to the Council for our much-loved green spaces. This will allow a permanent status for green spaces over and above allocations in the local plan. Newcastle-under-Lyme Borough Council is looking to enter into bespoke and legally binding agreements with the Fields of Trust charity to ensure that popular council-owned land, including parks, open spaces, playgrounds and sport fields, remain publicly accessible for recreational activities and nature appreciation now and in the future. As you will see from the report, we have drawn up a list of 88 sites, including Bathpool Park, Brampton Park and the newly created Lime Forest at Keele, which is now being assessed against strict criteria for lodging deeds of dedication applications. The sites listed in the report could benefit from legal protection to safeguard them in perpetuity. It is with enormous pleasure I present the Fields and Trust report to Cabinet for Cabinet member comments and hopefully approval today. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, David. Yes, really support this. I think we've seen many of these sites that are on this list. Some of the smaller ones particularly have been put forward for housing in the past. That's no longer the case. They have been removed from that. They are protected in the local plan. Some of them have got outstanding village green applications. Come back to that in a minute. But this is an extra layer of protection which we want to give these sites, and I completely endorse that we make moves in that direction through the Fields in Trust. As to the village green applications, I'm involved with one in Sandy Lane, which is got to the top of the County Council's list to be looked at the moment, and I'm going to be putting out an appeal for residents in the area to give us their recollections and history of their use of the site, which is important for the village green application. But this site is also going to be one of those included, I believe, in the Fields in Trust application as well. So we've got extra protection coming in there. So I think this is all about not only keeping our green open spaces as public spaces, but also enhancing them as well. As we've seen, for example, mentioned at Sandy Lane and many of these other sites on this list now, we've been planting trees, wildflower meadows, etc., which is all part of our bid to obviously help nature recovery, but also to help maintain these green spaces for the use of the public. We don't always get it right in some of the green spaces. People do complain about the length of the grass, as we saw in our grass policy, which has been reviewed, and some of those complaints have been taken on board. What we want to do is to keep these green spaces not only for public use, but also for nature and flora and fauna to live and grow. And I think some of these bigger sites which are on this list, which you talked about, David, have a big potential for that, such as the 850 Lyme Forest, but also neighbouring that now, which will be the new Country Park side park in Keele on the old former golf course, 66% of that. So I think we are moving in the right direction on where we want to go. This will give this land extra protection than it has at the moment, and I'm all in favour of that. So open it up now to comments and questions from any Cabinet members. Andy, anything from a planning perspective?
No, I don't think so. I think this is to be welcomed. Obviously, what this will help do is protect much loved public open spaces, and I think public is the important thing to stress here, from predatory applications and such like. So like yourself, and I hope other Cabinet members, I very much welcome this. It seems to me to be a good way of making sure that public amenity remains just that.
Thank you. Just before we move to the obviously recommendations, David is, and we agree the recommendations, I think just a point on some of these smaller sites that may not actually qualify through size for a Fields in Trust, and I know officers are looking to clarify that, because we do have some smaller, much loved green spaces that we'd like to include in this. Some of them have been subject to village green applications in the past. They're all protected in our plans now anyway, in our council policies, but we want to go further, because obviously we know we're in the, and one of our later items is about local government reorganisation. At the moment, Newcastle Borough Council, as we sit here, wants to protect these sites, but in the future there may be a council that doesn't have Newcastle interests so much at heart and is looking at a wider, larger footprint that may bring these green spaces back under threat. So we want some external, national accredited protection, and Fields in Trust is a way of doing that. So we note obviously the Fields in Trust principle, and that it be applied to the green spaces in the borough, and we authorise the Deputy Chief Exec with our portfolio holder David, and also with, from a landowning perspective, Steve as Deputy Leader in Finance and Town Centres, to undertake the required legal documentation for lodging with Fields of Trust applications to secure the status of these sites for future generations. All agreed? Thank you. That brings us now to item 7, which is project approval for the decarbonisation of J2 Leisure Centre and the funding received from central government. And believe it is going to be David to launch off on this, and then Craig is coming in after.
Yeah, thank you again, Leader. The purpose of this report is to update Cabinet on the Jubilee 2 Leisure Centre. The Sustainable Environment Portfolio Holder and the Sustainable Environment Service Director wish to press ahead with recommendations to make Jubilee 2 Leisure Centre more sustainable. Currently, the Jubilee 2 has the highest energy consumption in the Newcastle Borough Council estate. Following a successful bid to the Department for Energy Security, we have secured funding of up to £2,790,173. This grant, supplemented by capital funding, will enable the Council to move towards renewable energy sources that will provide heating, hot water and lighting to the large building, including the 2 swimming pools. The project, as you will see in the paperwork, is due to start in March 2027. The changes are projected to reduce traditional energy usage by around 1,588,192 kilowatt hours a year. This will result in much cheaper energy bills, and also there will be a saving of 280 tonnes of carbon annually. The timeline for the project is shown in your report in option 2.7. The funding is shown in section 8.3, and it will be released to the Borough Council in tranches. An officer team has been set up to manage the process for the project through planning and then implementation. And again, it's with great pleasure I present the J2 Leisure Centre report to Cabinet for Cabinet member comments and hopefully approval today. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Craig.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, David. I agree with everything that David says, but looking at financial aspects and impact of this funding, this is coming at a fantastic time for us. This funding provides us with an opportunity to support Jubilee 2 and help them remain financially secure, especially in uncertain times with a looming takeover bid from Stoke that will leave sites like J2O vulnerable and unable to access grants and programmes that it may need in the future. Jubilee 2 is a growing and popular facility with a healthy membership in an extremely competitive market. And this project future-proofs the centre in an age of rising energy costs, and it allows us to be a main leading player in the leisure industry. So I welcome this funding with open arms, and like I said, it couldn't come at a better time with the merging takeover bid. And I look forward to hopefully accepting this funding, putting it to good use, and look forward to seeing Jubilee's ongoing success. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, David. I think this is great that we're bringing in money from outside to help us to look at J2, put it on a sustainable future, save energy costs, and I think, you know, a pool cover. I remember working on the project for Kidsgrove Sports Centre, and a pool cover was something they wanted because they knew it was going to save them an absolute ton of money in energy costs. So that's part of this proposal, isn't it, I believe, along with all the other things you talked about as well, David. So I think this is great. And I think we should get on and do this. And as you've said, Craig, a great facility going from strength to strength, recovered from the knocks of lockdown and all of that, and membership up, facilities, great quality as well. And long may that continue. I was up for comments from other Cabinet members. Not seeing any. So thank you, David and Craig, for that. Recommendations are before us. All agreed? Thank you. That brings us then to item 8, local government reorganisation update. Bringing an update here to Cabinet on the submission of our interim plan on the request of the government. That went in March after full council's agreement. We were supposed to hear in April back from the government, and then it was early May. Well, we're early May now, and look at the Chief Executive as of today, we haven't received anything, any feedback at all. How are we going to get that feedback? We don't know. Is that going to be on our own or with the rest of the districts and county and city in the county of Staffordshire? We do not know. So yet again, I think the government are obviously stumbling forward on this, and we'll wait and see what they come back with. We've obviously put in a clear proposal that One, we believe that the two-tier system and the existing boundaries work. If they wish to force a reorganisation on us, then we would like to see a Newcastle unitary as our first choice. And I think what's necessary is obviously a November deadline for final submissions. We wait to see the government come back with any feedback, whether they wish us to go ahead or not, or they wish to force an alternative proposal upon the county. Then we will see what they come back with. But we need to start some work on our proposals, and that's what this report does. Gives the chief executive and myself permission to go and do that work and prepare a submission to government in November, pending what they say to us in their feedback from March submission. And also that we obviously continue to work jointly with other councils to formulate that. One of the recommendations that we were asked for our views on the Leaders Board. I was obviously at the Leaders Board meeting where this was discussed on a number of occasions, and the final meeting was actually on the night of our full council of the 19th of March. And unfortunately, we were unable to convince the leaders there to accept Newcastle's position that it wished obviously to object to the takeover bid from Stoke Council. They would not allow that to be included in the county-wide submission, so I did not sign up to the county-wide submission on behalf of this council. Now, they wish to then change the terms of reference of the Leaders Board, which at the moment is a body just talking about devolution, working together on shared objectives. They want to move that to be the body that decides reorganisation. I'm afraid that I cannot sign up to that change of recommendations to the terms of reference, because we were obviously not only outvoted, our voice was stifled in the Leaders Board, and we were not allowed by the other leaders to put forward a proposal. I cannot sign up to this body becoming the body which takes forward a local government reorganisation in Staffordshire. So I ask Cabinet members to support me in an amendment to that recommendation to say that this council does not agree to the amended terms of reference as set out at Appendix 1. I'd also like to add another recommendation to that, is that we seek, and I seek on this Cabinet's behalf, an urgent meeting with the new leader of the County Council when he or she is installed, which will be on the 22nd of May, to discuss obviously local reorganisation in Staffordshire and ask for their support in this fight to save our borough. We have over 7,500 signatures on our petition, which is going up all the time. On the election trail, I was out and about, and all three of us here were up for election in the County Council. Also, other members of the Cabinet were out electioneering. It was an issue on the doorstep that people want to see us stay separate from Stoke. They'd like to see us stay within our existing boundaries. But also, the clear message is they do not want local government reorganisation to mean a merger with Stoke. So we'll keep championing that cause and call, as it says in our recommendations there, for our local MPs, members of Parliament, to support the borough's resolution at its full council on the 19th of March, which is to save our borough. So those are the recommendations with the updates which I'd like to add. I'll open it up to comments and questions now from Cabinet members. Steve, and then Andy.
Yeah, I think it's a sensible approach. I entirely agree with you. I don't think personally the government has the faintest idea what it's doing with this, and I think they're asking for ideas and visions because they don't know what to do. So they want somebody else to come up with the answers for them. So now I think we should carry on exactly what you're doing. I think it's the way forward. It's the only way forward, as far as I'm concerned. I'm absolutely totally support you. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
Thanks very much. I agree with Stephen. I disagree with him. I do think the government knows what it's doing, and I don't think it's doing it for the advantage of local government. I think it's doing it for our crude party political advantage. However, I thoroughly endorse what the leader has done. I don't see why anyone should have to sign up to their own suicide note, which is effectively what was being invited there. I endorse entirely the fact that I've been campaigning in local elections recently, and there's a very clear message from everyone in this borough, even those who disagree with the rest of my message, is that they do not wish to be merged into a greater Stoke-on-Trent. We don't want to be the seventh town, and we have every right to defend ourselves against that. I think what the leader's done is the right approach to that, and I'm also, again, looking forward to seeing thorough endorsement of the independence, the historic independence of this borough, by our MPs whose duty it is to stand up for the borough in Parliament.
Thank you, Andy. Any other comments from Cabinet members? I think key really is the fact that we've put forward positive proposals, an interim plan, which was endorsed by full council on the 19th of March, that was sent in a couple of days later. So Newcastle's position is clear with the government on this. As I set out earlier, we await the government's response, and then we'll obviously react and bring further reports to Cabinet and, importantly, to full council in the run-up to November. But I'd like to thank, again, as I did at full council, our chief executive and his officer team for working on the interim plan, and also for members for supporting it, and of course, and also our petition signers, ever increasing as well, to hope to get at least to 10,000 of those in the near future before we bring that to a close before the summer recess of Parliament, and then we can take it down and give a solid view that this is not wanted and that the government must think again. But you're quite right. I think, Andy, as you said, as I said earlier, we need to call on our local MPs to support us on this. They are our voice in Westminster, and they can should be charged with the job of getting the government to change their mind on this important point. So those are the recommendations before us. Start of a journey. More news will come when the government give any feedback, but I will report back to Cabinet and full council in due course. All agreed the recommendations? Thank you. That brings us then to item 9, which is irrecoverable items. We have a public report, and we also have a confidential report, which we'll look at in confidential session, which has actually got the facts, figures relating to this. But Steve's going to introduce the public report.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. This is one of those tasks I have every year, and I dislike doing it intensely. It's basically writing off taxpayers' money. There's two elements of it. One is £117,493. That's debtors' own money owed to the council. The other is NNDR, National Domestic Rates. That's £121,052. Now, the vague, it's not quite as bad as this sounds at, because actually only £48,421 is come to us. 40% comes to us, 50% goes to the government, 9% goes to the county, and 1% goes to fire. So you put the two figures together. I haven't done the maths in my head, but it's less than what's 190,000, something like that, which is an extremely unpleasant task I have to do. But it's got to be done, and I can assure our taxpayers that we have done everything we can do to get this money back off people, but we simply can't get it. The companies are dissolved or liquidated. There's no one to chase the money for because they don't exist anymore. Thank you, Lena.
Thank you for that, Steve. So our recommendation is approve the write-off of items under Appendix 1, which are considered unrecoverable, and we'll look into that in more detail in private session. All agreed? Thank you. That brings us then to item 10, which is our forward plan. As per usual, we'll go through it. Obviously, the first couple of pages cover the today's meeting, which we brought all the items for. We have a meeting next in June, on June the 3rd. We'll have a Wally's Quarry update, Kisgrove Town Deal Board, Shared Service Hub Development and Town Deal update. And at that, we'll be able to counter some of the misinformation that the local MP, David Williams, has been putting out about the Town Deal Board. Look forward to that. And then we've got Q4 Finance Performance Report 24-25. Then we meet on July the 8th, which again will be a Wally's Quarry update, and the Community Safety Partnership Work Plan and the Civic Pride Strategy Empowering Our Communities as well in July. All agreed the forward plan? Great. Thank you. That brings us back to our agenda. Item 11, urgent business, not received any. We also don't have any requests for councillors or the public to speak. So I move to item 12, which is a disclosure of exempt information. I resolve that the public be excluded from the meeting during consideration of reports because they're likely to be the disclosure of exempt information as defined under Part 1, Schedule 12A amended of the Local Government Act 1972. All agreed? Thank you.